Hello everyone. In this video, we will go through 15 sample questions and answer them in detail to help you prepare for the AZ-104 Azure Administrator exam. In case if you would like to purchase the entire set of practice questions, use the link in the description below. Please comment if you would like me to do the sample test for any other Azure certification, and do subscribe, share and like the video. Let's get started. A company has an Azure subscription and a resource group. In the resource group, there is an internal load balancer and a public load balancer. Which role would you assign if you want to give a user permission to configure both the load balancers and to allow the addition of a health probe? And remember, the solution must follow the principle of least privileges. Since the solution calls for configuring both the load balancers, we need to assign the permissions at the resource group level and not at the individual resources level. So options A, B and D are wrong right away, as they assign roles at the load balancer level. Of all the roles, owner is a superior role which lets you manage everything, including who can access the resources. Contributor role is similar to the owner role, except that it cannot grant access to resources. Assigning these two roles would violate the principle of least privileges. To add a health probe to the load balancer, the user only needs to have access to the IP address of a virtual machine. The network contributor role fits the bill and is also more specific, as it relates only to managing a network. A company is deploying a set of VMs across different system tiers like web server tier, business logic tier, and SQL Server database tier as mentioned below. We need to choose a service which will equally spread the incoming requests to the business logic tier from the web servers. Well, this is exactly the architecture asked in the question. You have a web tier facing the internet and a business tier behind the web tier, shielded away from the internet. Both these tiers have sets of VMs deployed in separate subnets in a virtual network. To equally distribute the traffic to the VMs in the business tier, we use internal load balancer. A public load balancer balances the traffic from the internet to the web service tier, so it's incorrect. A network security group contains rules that allow or deny traffic, and it doesn't distribute any traffic. An application gateway also distributes the traffic, but it operates at the layer 7 of the OSI model, and it makes routing decisions based on, for example, an URL of a web page. Whereas a load balancer operates at the transport layer of the OSI model, which is layer 4, so it routes traffic based on the source and the destination IP address, so it is more apt for distributing traffic to the business tier. A company has the following resources defined as part of their Azure subscription. There are a bunch of resources that this question talks about, so let's simplify this question. You have a virtual machine in the West US location. You then create a new network interface in the central US region and trying to attach to the virtual machine. The question is, will this setup work or not? The answer is it will not work, as in order to attach a network interface to a virtual machine, it must be created in the same region as the virtual machine and also be a part of the same virtual network hosting the virtual machine. Here, the virtual machine is in the West US region, and you will not be able to attach the network interface created in the central US region to the VM. A company wants to transfer around 6 terabytes of data to Azure with the help of Azure Import Export Service. Which of the following can they use as the destination for the imported data? Well, with Azure Import Export Service, you can securely import large amounts of data either to Azure Blob Storage or Azure File Storage by shipping disk drives to an Azure data center. You cannot import the data to other Azure services like SQL database or data lake storage with Azure Import Export Service. You have 4 virtual machines in 3 different virtual networks. Out of these 4 VMs, you install DNS services on the VisLab VM1. The DNS server settings are then configured for each virtual network to use the VisLab VM1 as the DNS server. You need to ensure that all virtual machines in different virtual networks can resolve DNS names by using this DNS service. Which of the following would you implement for this requirement? Since the networks are isolated from each other, you need to ensure that the machines can communicate across virtual networks with the help of virtual network peering. So option D is correct. Options A and B are incorrect since service endpoints are used when you want to connect virtual networks securely to other Azure-based services. Option C is incorrect as well since a forwarder should be used when you want to forward DNS request to the Azure DNS service. You have to configure application insights for a set of 4 applications, and each application has a specific requirement. We will go through each of them and understand which feature of application insights should be used. For App 1, we should be able to see if users are progressing through the entire business process for the application. For this requirement, application insights funnel will be more relevant, as with funnels, you can know if customers are progressing through the entire process or if they are ending the process at some point in your application. For App 2, we should be able to analyze the load times and other properties that could influence conversion rates for the application. Application Insights Impact Analysis will be more relevant here, so you can use Impact to analyze how load times and other properties influence the conversion rates for various parts of your app. For App 3, we should be able to analyze how many users return to the application, which can be performed by the Application Insights retention feature. And finally, for App 4, which the question is talking about, we should be able to see the places where users repeat the same action over and over again. Application Insights User Flow will be the right answer for this, as user flows help visualize how users navigate between the pages and features of your site. You deploy 2 Azure virtual machines. The deployment must provide a service level agreement or SLA of 99.95% availability. You propose to create a scale set for the requirement. Would the solution meet the desired end goal? Well, scale sets are used to automatically scale the virtual machines based on load. But to achieve the desired level of availability, you need to place the VMs in an availability set. VMs placed within the availability set run across multiple physical servers, compute racks, storage units, and network switches. So if a hardware or a software failure happens, only a subset of your VMs are impacted and your overall solution stays operational. Also refer to this SLA guide, which says that for VMs placed within an availability set, Microsoft guarantees an SLA of 99.95%. So the answer will be no. Further, you can also use availability sets along with scale sets to achieve high availability. In this question, there are a bunch of virtual networks and subnets, and it asks if we can establish a site-to-site VPN connection between VisLab Network 1 and VisLab Network 2. Well, by looking at the address space for VisLab Network 1, all of its address space is consumed by this only subnet, VisLab Subnet 11. There aren't any sufficient address spaces to create a gateway subnet in the virtual network, which is essential to establish a site-to-site VPN connection. So you cannot establish a site-to-site VPN connection from VisLab Network 1. A company currently has the following resources in different regions in their subscription. Now, in which region can they create a new network interface? Well, they can create the network interface only in the East US region, as the virtual network created here is in the East US region. The reason is you can only assign a network interface to a virtual network that exists in the same subscription and the location as the network interface. Even the virtual machine that you add the network interface to must also exist in the same location and subscription as the network interface. You have an Azure subscription and a resource group in the subscription. You create an Azure policy based on the not allowed resource types definition and define Microsoft.network.virtualNetworks as the not allowed resource type. Finally, you assign this policy to the tenant root group. The question is if you will be able to create a virtual machine in the resource group that was defined. There are several parts to this question, so let's break them down. First, specifying virtual networks as not allowed resource type in your Azure policy definition will not allow any virtual networks to be created. And since this Azure policy is applied to the tenant root group, which is the display name of the root management group, all the management groups and the subscriptions and resource groups below it will inherit the policy. So without the virtual networks, you cannot create any virtual machine. So the answer is no. Your company has an Azure storage account with the following properties and they want to perform live migration. Which of the following must be carried out first to fulfill this requirement? Well, a live migration is supported only for storage accounts that use locally redundant storage or geo-redundant storage replication. Here, the account uses read access geo-redundant storage, so we need to first change the storage account's replication type to either LRS or GRS before proceeding. This intermediary step removes the secondary read-only endpoint provided by RAGRS before migration. A development team has launched an Azure Kubernetes cluster. They have images in Azure Container Registry and they want to deploy an application onto the cluster using an image from the Azure Container Registry. Which of the following command could be used to fulfill this requirement? To deploy an application to the cluster, you need to use the kubectl apply command and pass the YAML file which contains the definitions of the applications to be deployed, replicas, ports to be used and other information. Docker build builds an image from a Docker file and Docker run creates and starts the container from the image. Your company needs to deploy an application to a set of 3 virtual machines. You have to ensure that at any point in time, 2 virtual machines are always available in the event of a data center failure. You decide to deploy the virtual machines as part of a single availability zone. Would this fulfill the requirement? Well, before answering this question, let's review the Microsoft documentation. For Azure regions enabled with availability zones, you have 3 availability zones in a particular region, and each availability zone is made up of 1 or more data centers. So if you deploy all 3 virtual machines as part of a single availability zone, you're deploying all the VMs in either 1 or 2 data centers within a single availability zone. In the event of a data center failure, it is impossible to ensure that any 2 virtual machines are always available. So you need to deploy VMs across multiple availability zones. So the answer is no. A company has the following virtual machines, VM1 and VM2, defined in their Azure subscription. The subscription has a limit of 20 vCPUs for the West US region, and they now want to deploy the additional 2 virtual machines, VM3 and VM4. The question is, would the company be able to deploy WizLab VM3? Well, although the WizLab VM1 is in a deallocated state, this would still count towards the total number of vCPUs created in the region. Hence, adding a new virtual machine with 16 vCPUs would cross the limit on vCPUs for the West US region. So the answer is the company will not be able to deploy the additional VM. A company has the following resource groups defined in their Azure subscription. Resource group 1 is in West Europe location and resource group 2 is in North Europe location. And several virtual machines are then created like VM1, 2, 3, A, B and C across the two different resource groups and across the West Europe and Northern Europe locations. And finally, a recovery services vault is also created in the West Europe region. The question is, which of the following virtual machines can be backed up using the recovery services vault? Well, the recovery services vault can only back up the VMs located in the same region. Since the vault is created in the West Europe region, all the VMs created in Western Europe like the VM1, VM3, VM-A and VM-C can be backed up by the recovery services vault. To back up the VMs in the North Europe region, you need to create another recovery services vault in that region. Note that only the location of the VMs and not that of the resource groups determine if the VMs can be backed up in a recovery services vault. To demonstrate this, I have created a VM in the East US location and two recovery services vaults, one in the East US location called East US Vault and the other in the West US location called the West US Vault. To back up the VM, go to the operations and click backup. Here, either you create a new recovery services vault which will be created by default in the same location of the VM or use an existing one. And within the options, you see only the East US vault in the East US region and not the other one in the West US region. So this indicates that you need to have the recovery services vault in the same region as the VM. Once you are done, submit the test and verify your performance from the result. Also, you get the performance report domain-wise, so you can analyze the questions for any particular domain and you will see all the questions related to that domain and their correct answers and explanations for each question and also links to the Microsoft documentation in case you like to learn the concept in depth. So if you are serious about clearing AZ-104 exam, check the description for the link to the entire practice test, roughly 220 questions that cover the length and breadth of all the objectives in the exam. Also, please comment if you would like me to do this sample test for any other Azure certification and do subscribe, share and like the video.